What's your Paul Abdul #1 song?
Well, was it Straight Up Now Tell Me? Straight Up Now Tell Me, do you really want to love me forever?
Yeah, that's a better one.
Am I accused of a hit and run?
Thank you for joining us. This is the damn same.
Just spit it out.
No, I know, but this becomes now like a trigger because
thing.
it's the same thing I end up doing every time. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Co-Founders. This is Alex Mont-ros. We have Lisa Mont-ros. Still your name, and don't give me that. That's a weird look. It's a very scary,
but you
my face.
You always say my name like with a question, like you're unsure.
Are you Lisa Mont-ros?
I don't know.
Okay.
You tell me.
Maybe I'm Lisa Mont-ros.
I don't know.
And we have Lisa Mont-ros.
Hello. Hi there.
We have Troy and Karen Thiel. Thank you guys for joining us. Really great friends of ours, and we haven't seen each other in quite a long time.
It's too long.
And it's been good now to kind of finally reconnect.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have some fun.
I was in jail for a year, so no visitation was allowed.
I know. Well, I did write some letters, but you never wrote back.
I know. I had so many.
So anyhow, thanks again. So we're gonna get right into it. So tell us who you are. Like, what do you do? Kind of, what's your whole deal?
Okay, you wanna?
What do we do?
What do we do?
What don't we do?
Okay, what don't we do? Yeah. Troy and Karen Thiel, and we are the Thiel Team with the Windermere Yarrow Bay office, and we are real estate agents that help basically just about everybody. We help first-time buyers. We actually help relocating renters, because that's a big component of the business here. We help existing homeowners list and sell their property, and hopefully if they're looking to find another property, we help them find that as well. And we're working as development consultants. We're working on condo projects, condo conversion projects. That's kind of one of our passions and our backgrounds. So you got anything to add to that?
I guess the other thing would be a lot of the advocacy that we're involved in, also relating to housing. We're working to try and create a better understanding of some of the missing middle housing that's part of our area here. We don't have enough homes for people to purchase at a nice amount of money. And we also work, I'm on the board for Attain Housing, which helps families in crisis find housing and get some case management services.
Yeah. We do a lot of advocacy in our community. I think, it's our chi. It's what, we talk about teaming together as spouses. We have this strong moral compass that, since we help people find their housing needs, the community is the number one kind of value factor. And we feel not only an obligation, but a love, quite frankly, of helping our community be a better community for all. So we've got a lot of challenges in the Seattle and Washington state market. And Karen and my experience back in the Midwest with a more normal housing ecosystem of variety of types of housing that are available for purchase at more price points, we feel is a missing link here, and we're trying to help people understand the solutions.
Yeah, it's such especially here. I mean, we watch what you guys are doing, and the advocacy of how do we get more affordable housing, and looking at the condo conversion kind of market, and it's such a need here. And I can only imagine. Quite honestly, you don't see a lot of people with that passion the way you guys have been driving it, especially here locally. I don't know. I don't see anybody really, everything that I see from you guys is coming from a place of, hey, how do we help? How do we continue to add value to the market within that one niche, right? I'm not saying others don't do it within their own niches, but this one specific niche is really, really interesting because it's a huge need.
And I think it's kind of what we were talking about when we first started talking off camera and everything, but nobody's talking about this stuff. Everybody's kind of shoving it under a rug and not talking about what's actually happening in the housing industry here. And so the fact that you have awareness and you know your numbers about what's happening here makes a difference, because you can make a difference then. You know what you're targeting, as opposed to let's just go sell $1 million houses. So I think that makes, it's impactful knowing what's going on, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, there are organizations. Everyone knows we're in crisis, right? in some sense. They might have a friend or a family member, or let's take Microsoft. They put $500 million into the housing issues. 475 of that is lower cost loans, and $25 million. I'm not sure how they're spending. Google just announced $1 billion in the San Francisco market to address housing inequities in the marketplace. Facebook, $800 million. So what's interesting about the Seattle story, right? The boom of the last 7 or 8 years, since the recovery, has been this incredible job growth and high income. But housing and cost have almost doubled in the same time frame. And our boom, unfortunately, to result is that some people have gotten a lot of great appreciation, but it's pricing out just too many of our folks and of our community, and that's imbalancing our housing ecosystem quite a bit. And we've lived in areas where certain types of product have been developed, or condo conversions have filled that missing middle, which is a kind of a phrase. And I'm excited that a lot of people are talking about the crisis. It's switching tracks and okay, so what are the solutions? Let's get to the solutions.
Yeah.
I remember, before coming out here, Las Vegas was, I don't know if it was a pioneer, but it was big in the early 2000s around condo conversion. And I don't think it was to meet housing needs. It was to help these developers make more money, right? Yeah. Really that's what it was about, because there's plenty of land in Las Vegas to keep going out forever. But here it's quite a different story, because it's literally like there is no more land to build. There's just, how do we now convert these condos so that we can actually have affordable housing, and to some extent, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'll take an example of a building in downtown Kirkland that was built, Voda, and that Continental Properties, Claudio Gincher out of Vancouver, BC. They do condos there significantly better than we do. 65% of their units that sell in the Vancouver, BC market are condominiums, because they're more affordable. Yeah. And they've gotten transit-oriented development down well. They've got the train systems that are, you go up there and you see Surrey and Richmond and all these cities that they look like Bellevues, and there's several of them. Right. At Burnaby and other places. And so the condominium product there is 65% of what sells. In this marketplace, about 15%. Do the math on that difference. And the other challenge of our 15%, about a third of that is investor purchases. So we're really only selling about a tenth of our market. In a market where a single family home now averages $1 million, Houston, we have a problem, or Seattle, we have a problem. Yeah. And so, and I think what you're saying, people aren't, they're like, we need to talk about, we need to wake up and realize that the Seattle boom happened in 2012, 13, and 14, and 15, because housing was about 40 or 50% less. Yeah. I'll use as an example, look what's the hottest market in the nation right now? Tacoma.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that average price is significantly less. Now, the challenge that's going to create is, just get on the AI-5 at rush hour.
Right. Yeah. Or anytime.
Right?
Well, because the construction never ends. Yeah. It seems out there.
Yeah, but we've added in Bonnie Lake and Puyallup and Tacoma and Lacey and Olympia, we've added probably 50,000 commuters in the last year or two or three, and it's starting to show. There's a lot of pain point. There's a threshold, quite frankly. Drive to qualify is a thing, and I think people saw that as the answer, right? Look at all these great stuff. Just drive to Tacoma. It's a nice drive when there isn't a whole lot of traffic. Yeah. Whenever it's like, I leave when I have to go to Olympia to testify or meet with state legislators. I leave at 5 a.m. from Kirkland. I beat traffic. I work out. I hit a breakfast. I start my day early, and that's okay. Yeah. But we've got to figure that out, because people that are making $200,000-$300,000 should own where they live.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
You would think it's insane. Yeah. You go, we always joke, it's like, you make that kind of money here, it's like, you're kind of living okay. Mm-hmm. You make that money, Montana, Las Vegas, like you're living really well. Yeah.
Right. I'd waste it all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit about, how do you two work together? Like, how do you come together every day? What does the dynamic look like? Challenges? Like, how long have you been working together? That's a better question to start with.
Well, okay. So I got my real estate license in 2011.
Okay.
But I had been helping as an unlicensed person For a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I was 29 years in the telephone industry,
Okay.
and I was fortunate enough to be able to retire from that industry and be a stay-at-home mom for a while, which was just the biggest blessing in the entire world. Very privileged to be able to have done that. And in the early, in 2010, I said to Troy, I'm looking at those college tuition payments. Going, ooh, maybe I should
motivation.
maybe I should go back to work, honey.
Yeah.
And he said to me, honey, I could use some help.
Yeah.
And so got my license, and we've been working together and trying to figure out doing the things that need to get done in order to make the business work. And I think from my perspective is we each have our different strengths and weaknesses, and so we've based our working relationship for the most part on I do things that I'm better at, and he does all the contract work. I don't even look at contracts, and so because that's his forte. But I do more of the marketing because I'm more of a visual person. So.
Yeah, and one of the things, we worked together when we worked with you guys at Keller Williams. We were growing so fast when I took over running the Keller Williams Bellevue office that we had a bare bones skeleton staff, and when you're adding 100+ agents in a year, and you're adding 10,000 square feet of more space and having to redesign and all that, we didn't have a staff person. So Karen, in her days in the telecommunications industry and in our lifetimes together, has been a great project manager, and so she was able to fill that role that we really needed to help that office grow, to its potential and hopefully beyond. They're doing well, and I'm glad for them. One of the things that in our early days when we first got together in the early '90s and hooked up, ooh, that sounds naughty. Can we be naughty on this show? Anyway, so is that we were both leaders in our respective careers, and it would have been difficult at that time to have two chiefs kind of working together. And maybe you're both strong-willed people, and that's probably a challenge for y'all, and it is for us because we've both had that management and kind of the power level jobs. And so what really woke us up and where we really worked well together is when you raise a child together. We have one, you have a family. When you're a parents together, that creates a great partner, or it better create a great partnership. And you learn how to work together. So I think that was a maturation of our relationship. And Karen really touched on it. Delegation is sort of key. You got to make space for each other because we're individuals as well as a team. And that space is Troy gets up at 5 a.m. and she sleeps in a little bit to a little after 6. And so I have my time and Tom Ferry talks about you need to have strong morning traditions, or, what is it? Some people pray, some people meditate, some people read or go for a workout. And so I think giving each other the space that we each need, like she has her workout regimen, and I understand that we can work apart. And then it's probably very important. I don't know how often you all connect on whether a daily or a weekly basis, but we have structured time that we review on Sunday morning, coming back from the gym, we review our plan for the week, right? And then Monday afternoon, we have our 411. Still use the 411 because it works. We have our 411 projects. And then on Tuesdays, we do this and this together. And we have that structured schedule that is sort of key to keeping us on track with each other and with our business.
Right. Yeah. We actually discovered reviewing the schedule even before I joined him in business. Because what was happening after I retired is he had priorities in his head and I had priorities in my head, and I don't know why, but they didn't line up.
Just because we're married doesn't mean we're psychic. Right?
And so he was getting frustrated, and so when we started just making the commitment to discuss what's at the top of our list this week, and making that a priority on my list or his to-do list, that really helped a lot.
We just had we had a guest it's funny. You literally just verbatim said what they had said.
I think that means we need to hear it.
Yeah,
I think that means like someone speaking through you guys to us.
We'll tend to. So I plan my whole week on Sunday, but we work in silos. You know, she's planning, right, and then all of a sudden we talk about. We'll check in probably more. Maybe on like a monthly basis, like where we're at collectively. We do family meetings, which is good because we actually sit the family down and we let the kids talk about what's going on with them, and so we do that. But one area that I think we need to improve in, this second time we've heard it literally today,
right, is
getting to a very structured week. And it's funny because we've had the intent to do that, and we never execute on it. Yeah. It's like, hey, this Sunday let's get together. And then all of a sudden, Sunday comes and we're exhausted. We're like, It's
and I think it's how you view it. Because I think we go into it, or I do. I can speak for myself. Yeah. I go into it viewing it as another thing we have to do. And so we also had a discussion today about how I'm a chronic procrastinator. And it kind of falls in line with that when it's like, this is another thing I have to do. And I already have so much I have to do that it's like, this seems to get put on the back burner. And I think it's probably the most important thing we could do.
Yeah. Well, I think too that you have to realize it's not going to take as long as you think it's going to take.
Right.
I mean, one of the other things that helped us, and we had to do this with the business, is we share a Google Calendar. And we needed this because if we have a client that, wants to schedule a home inspection, that's my gig. I love doing home inspections. Well, he needs to see my calendar so he can say, hey, this is when we're available to do this. And so, it doesn't take that long. 5 minutes maybe.
I think too, it's important to come together on a frequent basis because there's adjustments you always have to make to your business or with your customer. We've got to make an adjustment with a couple today after a conversation, and but having that structured time where you're working together on those joint projects is key. And I think it makes me feel better. I'm like you. I would procrastinate. If I could, and I like to chase squirrels and look at it over here. This is a shiny object. I'm going to run this way into the flame. Yeah. Like a little moth and burn right up. And it's important that you figure out what your priorities are, right? Because in business, focus is everything. I think that's one of the great things I love about our lifestyle that, I mentioned we do a lot of different fields of real estate, and then all that advocacy, and we're very active with business organizations in the Kirkland Chamber and the Eastside Chamber and the Downtown Association. You all know me pretty well. I'm a little caffed up and I'm a little naturally energized, and I love having 12 spinning plates. She's better doing really good at 3 or 4 spinning plates. And so she says, okay, you go spin those plates and be the Chinese acrobat or whatever, but I'll focus on this. And so when we're really good about that kind of focus time. Interesting.
Gotta have it.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know. I remember we were at church one day and the pastor said something about how, they were talking to the church body about volunteering, and they're like, we don't expect everybody to do everything and they compared it to like a dinner plate. Some people are appetizer plates and they can handle just what fits on an appetizer plate, and some people are dinner plates, and some people are buffets. I'm like a platter and he's a buffet, where Alex loves, like you, like.
Is it an all-you-can-eat buffet? Because that's where I'm at, right?
But it is. It's like, it's constantly. It's just. He can handle way more than I can, and it's knowing that of like, okay, you can handle that. You do that. I'm going to focus here because I'm a platter. I'm not this huge long table, and I think that's an important distinction to know about yourselves, and one isn't better than the other. They're just different.
Yes, exactly.
Right. But I also think you need to take into consideration what the other half of your work is. And that is, I'm the one that pays the bills. I'm the one that gets the grocery shopping done. I'm the one that plans the meals. So so you may actually have that buffet. It's
just different.
It's just a different.
It's the frame. It's how you're framing it. Because but I'm saying, with regards to business, we have, again, I go use that word silo. We silo things because that's specific to the business.
Right.
But you are like a freaking machine when it comes to the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I might be.
you know, you have to, he has to realize that there's a whole other job that, you know, he could take over those things, but in some ways I don't want him to because it's who I am. You know,
Right.
I'm a caregiver. I like to make sure we have good food on the table. I like to do those things. It fulfills me. And so there's nothing wrong with that, but it also takes me away from the business.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's, you know, and, you know, what you were talking about, you know, things to do. My mindset with procrastination sort of turned around, and when this happened, I can't remember who I heard it from. When instead of my things to do list, which I create every day and review, that's one of my morning CEO management kind of brain, you know, working on my business rather than in it. And I changed the wording. It's my success plan. And that mindset really helped. And I created some affirmation that I really feel comfortable saying a few times out loud to have that mindset at the beginning of the day that I enjoy being a leader in the real estate industry and my community through helping others achieve their goals. That's simple. That's what we do, is we help people achieve their goals. And we do that from our advocacy route, and we do that with our business. And so when I saw it as being a success plan versus things to do, for me, that helped my mindset. Yeah. The words you choose, right?
There's you touch on a topic, James Clear wrote in Atomic Habits about having an identity associated with your habit, right? So a lot of people say, well, I want to lose weight. Well, when you don't identify yourself as, let's say, I'm an athlete or I'm X, you know, I'm a person that I'm a runner. When you go, I'm going to go for a run, you're still not associating with an identity. So then what happens is that habit eventually doesn't really form because you're not living up to the identity over time, and then you stop running. Well, when you say you wake up, and to your point, like I'm this, you've associated that with identity. So your day-to-day activities are going to be tying back to who you are and who you view yourself as, which is helping the community. It's very interesting, and to your point, it's a paradigm shift in how you look at your day-to-day activities that validate your identity. It's really powerful. I mean,
it's really powerful. We're actually with our team right now reading the book and going through it, and it's what we discussed yesterday on our call with it. And it's you can change your story about who you are, and it changes your habits. So, you know, I mean, I'm a chronic procrastinator versus I get things done. That there's two different habits, and it all starts with who you are, as opposed to my goal is to get things done on time, which is a different way of framing it.
And I'm going to guess that you're not a chronic procrastinator. It's just life in 2019 throws us so many, you know, new priorities on an hourly basis. I mean, you know, how many phone calls and texts have you gotten in the last 60 minutes before this that require you to diverge from what you're procrastinating from? It's that you've got to, so that becomes the scheduling. I think one of the other things is that we have a shared schedule in the sense that we know that we work together X, Y, and Z. So like we know that Monday afternoon and Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon and Friday afternoon are our primary times to work together on those things. But we've got schedules and they diverge. And the challenge is, you know, all of these squirrels that come at you that take you off your message, you've got to figure out a way to control the response. When do you respond to them? You've got to silo them because you've got to have focus time on whatever your business any of us are in, listening to this or watching this. You've got to have focus time on your priorities.
Yeah, that's good. So what does the future look like for, you know, you've been together in officially, like working together. Actually, I'm going to take a step back on this question, but I want to understand, so how many years it's been? Gosh, it's been since we've almost kind of known you guys, give or take, in that realm of time, right? Has it been, what are the things you experienced and what were exposed that you maybe didn't have exposure to working together versus not working together in the past? What was something that you learned from each other when you're like, oh, this is who you are. When I actually,
I've got one. But I'll let her go first. I've got one. Yeah.
Oh, this is who you really are. Okay.
Yeah, I've got. Yeah.
So that's a really,
This is hard to take 24/7. I mean, 24/7, 365.25. This I want to get away from me too. I guess that's sort of the theme.
So yeah. I want to know. What do you think, Aaron?
What have I learned from I don't.
Working together? I know what I've learned working together is I need to get away from her sometimes before I drive her insane, right? Is that we each have two different energy fields, right? You know, so you come together because opposites attract. That's Paula Abdul, 1985, if you're counting at home. I could do the whole song.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. But the point is that, you know, we're different people, like you said. And it's important that we create that space. To achieve apart from each other. We're not, you know, we're greater because we bring two very good professionals together, but we also know that we've got to give each other the space to do to work independently. And you know, like you all silo, you have it, you know, and that's where that delegation, you know, it's kind of the pathway to say it. The other thing that I think we do very well is not everybody wants Paula Abdul / Troy as their agent. They might want smoother, prettier, less caffeinated Karen as their agent, and I dialed down. This is too much fun.
Yeah,
I've got a mic, but we know that certain people, and this is out of the KW world, right? The disc, you know, profile.
Right.
Yeah.
We know that certain people want the analytical high SC. And the DI is going to push them a little harder than they want to be. And so understanding that in each other, you know, sometimes we pick and choose who's the lead role for that specific client because we want to make sure that they're comfortable with us. Yeah. And I, you know, as much as I want to be a high SC, you know, that I'm an old dog and those tricks are hard to teach.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because we have those same conversations around. If there's a conversation that's happened with the client, we will, and because I know who I am, and I don't want to say something abrasive or something that I'm going to be pissed off about and actually offend a customer. So I'm like, look, it's better that I step away and Lisa, you take, because again, I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I don't want to overpower a conversation or get frustrated within a conversation that's going to lead us to lose business.
But vice versa. There's times that like I have a tendency to back down quicker when something comes up, and he'll stand up longer. So we just have to, it's knowing the clients and saying, hey, this is this is right up your alley. If I take this call, it's not going to go well. And we both know kind of when that situation happens.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's what makes your company stronger, right? Is that you've got that diversity of type of performance.
Right.
And that's what, you know, we have too. And that's, you know, sort of what the team model does do. This is, you know, the KW is a leader, and you see teams, you know, there's teams from every company now. This industry and your industry, well, these industries have gotten much more complex. When I first started in the business in the early 90s in Chicago, I had a big book, like the telephone book. It was yellow for the active listings and blue for the recently closed or under contract listings. My marketing took me about half an hour a week. Now it's 2.5 hours a day, right? You know, you between social media and all the other things that you've got to do. And so the team concept is because you've got people that are really experts, and Karen's really an expert at several things that I'm not that good at. And it's a good thing I've got her as a teammate. Yeah. And then I'm good at some things that she either isn't great at or doesn't want to do, right? Right. And so I have that call, right? Yeah. And so that's what makes having a partner. I mean, we became greater partners working together as parents. I think that was because we thought about going into business together before we had a child, and that was 80% of businesses that spouses start end in divorce. Yeah. It's a scary thing going. I mean, it's we didn't. Yeah. And or that was an old stat. Maybe that's it. And I could tell if we would have gone into business together
at that time,
because we both had we're the leader attitude, and we weren't going to open that space to let the other person have power.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We'd start a project, and we're both project managers by our previous jobs, and we we'll get to the same finish line, but we approach the project completely different. And it would be it was funny. It was very funny.
I'm like, maybe we shouldn't start a business, move regions, have a baby, leave our family in our comfort area. We were doing all 4 things because we were going to open up a cafe in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we lived in Chicago. I'd helped Starbucks open in the 2nd region of Chicago, and I love the cafe world, and that. I love that vibe of what it creates. Good cafes are sort of community centers. Or those third places.
That third place,
is what a branding is, and they're great third places. That's my because real estate, as you all know very well, is a bit of an isolated business because even though you create a team or you've got some collegiality within your office, you essentially compete against those people too.
Oh, for sure.
Right, in a little way. In our specific office, our primary competition are the people that are in our office.
It's interesting because there is a spirit of we're one company, one brand, we're all coming together, but internally there's I got it. I saw my name here. I need it to be. It's just continual competition, whether people want to admit it or not. I can't stand when people are like, no, I'm like, well, then you're probably not going to be in business very long because you have to be pushing yourself forward. I mean, there's a lot of business out there for sure, but there's the abundance and scarcity model, I guess. And it's I think a combination of the two that a good agent really takes into consideration.
And I think really great agents, and I know in any market, is the best way to do it is to compete against yourself. Set your own goals because there's always enough business to go around of the people who do it right.
Exactly.
Or one would hope is the case. And I think, unfortunately, agents that essentially do that hyper-competitive model, and then they're just bound for a fall because there's always someone doing more business than them.
Always.
There's always someone who's got a nicer new car or whatever Joneses you want to keep up with. So compete against yourself. Set your make big goals. But you know what? It's perfectly fine. When I was running the company with you guys over there, some people were fine selling 8 homes a year or 6 homes a year. There's always this go. You're nothing. And this was a bit of a criticism I had with that model is they always put people up on stage that were selling 300 or 400 homes a year. That's like you can count on this number of hands.
Literally.
The number of people that do that. Where most people are selling 6 to 10. Make their lives better.
Right. And not everybody wants to sell.
Correct.
That's a
when people realize
grind.
what it takes to sell that many homes, some people aren't willing to do what it takes to do that. And that's something we actually realized really quick in our business when we would interview clients. There was an initial assumption that everybody wanted to just close more deals. The more we would interview, and that's why we changed our whole model around like, hey, get back time to focus on what matters most. Well, that's an open-ended thing. What matters most to you might be, hey, you just two want more date night together and you don't want to be at night pounding the keyboards trying to get an offer out, whatever. Or you maybe do want to close more transactions or you want more time with your family. It's up to you. Regardless, our services would provide that. And you make up the end statement most time for whatever. And I remember talking to one broker and he was like, he closed, I think it was like 10. And he was kind of well known. I thought when I first interviewed him, I'm like, I would have thought he would close like 30 to at least 50 a year. He's like, it's like I'm on the east side and 10 gives me good living. And I'm like, I'm like, you know what? I go, it's a good point. I
go. Karen's best friend, Ellen, her mother in the North Shore market of Chicago. Is retired, but she does deals for her friends, and she closes about 8 or 9 or 10 units a year. Maybe works 10 hours a week. Average price is $3 million. So that's not a bad part-time job.
No.
But remember, she's got all that expertise and those connections, and what makes our industry
that's not
valuable.
The first year,
right?
Exactly.
Of sales, right?
Exactly. So for us, it's what you were saying is, you know what? Compete against yourself. Set your own goals. I think the thing I miss most about running a company and coaching agents is going through that process with all those agents, I really got a lot of juice from that. And my dad was a teacher that way, and with careers in the journalism business. That's what I miss most about the management is helping people achieve their goals.
Yeah,
and it was fun. It was taking them through the process. What are their big goals? What are their push goals? How do they like to do the business? Well, if you like doing it, and then you're going to be sincere about it, and the consumer or the prospect or the customer or the client is going to love you because you're coming from a place of passion with your business. Yeah. And so I think Karen and I, we share the passion to help people, and it's in our community and it's in our business. And so I think that's what makes us a special team, because it's fun and it's meaningful.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. So I know we're getting close to our wrapping up. So really quick, we covered a lot, actually, really good insights. What is one thing that the audience can take away from, this is kind of our optimizer kind of segment of the episode, that you would recommend, or that you would, have somebody consider running a business together?
I think kind of what we hit on, we hit the high point is having a schedule of delegation of who does what, and then making sure that in that scheduled time that you've got the come together time where you work together on the mutual projects, and review where the week's going and where your goals are, and any adaptations you need to make. Okay. So scheduling, right? It sort of does. Back to some KW, the Pat phrase from Bold is, it's not about selling real estate; it's about following a schedule. Right. Yeah. And so that's on my phone. That's my saver one is focus on your schedule and do your best job, and hopefully, good Lord willing, it'll all work out.
Awesome. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being
Thank
here.
You.
We miss you. We used to be able to see you all the time, and we don't now. So we need to figure out how to make that happen. But it's such a pleasure being able to spend time with you.
Yeah, and back at you. It's fun. This is great.
Awesome. Cool. And to our audience, thank you so much, as always, for being here. We had some wonderful guests today. And we'll see you next time on Co-Founders.
All right. I got to get the right camera, and I'm getting the Queen wave. Peace.